If there's one thing that I'm not a big fan of, it's creepy dolls. Pretty sure that I'm not the only one that actually can sit here and say, I don't like those little things. Never have, never will. I always get an eerie feeling just even thinking about being in an entire room with them, let alone an entire house filled with creepy dolls. This is a story of how I made the biggest mistake of my life one night, or at least one of the biggest mistakes in my life, when I decided to go to this abandoned place that was known to have haunted dolls somewhere. So, without further ado, let's get into the story. The year was 1994, and I was a big brother at this time. My little brother Tyler just loved to go on adventures, especially if it has anything to do with hauntings or spooky stuff. Oh yes, we were known as a spooky trio, because we were the ones that would like to do the most creepiest things nobody else would. You know, the typical things of going to cemeteries late at night or exploring these supposed haunted forests and stuff. Well, we were in New York at this time, and we had some relatives that stayed out in Jersey, way out in the wooded area. So, our mom decided for us to fly out there to visit my uncle who lived out there alone by himself. So, it was pretty awesome just to hear the news because, well, our uncle was very spooky himself. He collected supposed haunted items, loved to tell scary stories out by the campfire at night, and he just did the best impressions of all the horror movie icons you can think of. So, we were in for a real treat this particular visit. After boarding off the flight, our uncle picked us up and took us straight there. And I remember us just basically having a good cookout and just catching up on old times together. And we kept bringing up and bothering him, just asking if he came up with any new stories that he could possibly tell us out by the campfire tonight. And he was kind of hesitant to tell us this one particular story that was supposedly an urban legend, but it was true, because the locals would tell about this tale all the time. He was about to tell us the urban legend of the Cabin of Dolls. It was maybe around 11 o'clock at night when he decided to start the fire out back, and we sat there eagerly waiting for him to tell the story while we were cooking up some s'mores and just basically getting ready to hear the most scariest tale of our lives. He sat down and then began to tell the story.
Legend has it, there was actually a place in the 1800s that was known as the Cabin of Dolls. Nobody knows exactly who owned it or who lived there in that time, but it's been passed down from generation to generation that there was probably a coven of witches that actually lived there. And for every child they killed, they would make them into a doll, and they would place them all throughout the place, just as a little reminder of the children that they took in. Nobody understood where these children kept disappearing from or how, or who was responsible. But over the years, the townsfolk got suspicious and actually blamed it on the witches themselves, to which they denied all the way up to their hanging. Although the people in the village were actually shooken up and very, very angry about what happened, they just couldn't find it to burn the place down. So, they kept it up as some kind of memorial place for their loved ones to rest. All the little innocent children that they have lost over the years. Hopefully they'd be able to find peace wherever they may be. But until the present day, locals swear they can hear the screams and laughs of innocent children, off and on throughout the nights. And this has been going on for quite some time. Me and some buddies did actually go up there one night ourselves when we were in high school. And of course we all thought it was a bunch of BS because hell, we didn't think there was such things as ghosts or spirits or anything of that kind of nature. But boy, we were completely wrong. We were only standing outside for about 5 minutes until we all noticed that there was some children peering down from one of the windows, and they had piercing black eyes, and they looked completely dead. Not to mention you could actually see right through them as well, which made it a lot more scarier. As soon as it clicked that these were obviously ghost kids, we just took off out of there and never came back. It's been said to this day that nobody had the guts to go back up there to see if this place was still in existence. But legend has it, whoever goes up in there will not come out alive, but will probably stay and remain there as a doll for the rest of their lives.
After he told us the story, we were so intrigued, but we had to ask him, was this real? Or was this something just the locals told for a story? He gave us a smile and didn't really say too much, so that kind of gave it away as of what he was really thinking. And without further ado, he just basically told us to call it a night and that we would continue a new adventure tomorrow, possibly go camping and do some fishing. So we went to bed, or at least that's what we wanted him to think. I woke up my brother Tyler about an hour later and basically told him, we should go look for this place, just to see if it's real. How awesome would it be if we actually came across this urban legend? My brother Tyler was actually a little hesitant to go at first, but since we were the spooky trio, he decided, why not? Let's go out and look for this thing. But the one thing we thought was, well, we didn't exactly know how to get there, so we would literally have to go in the direction that our gut instinct told us to go. And wow, when I tell you that the forest looks a whole lot different at night, it becomes a whole different world. A world filled with dark mystery and spiritual wonder. My brother Tyler actually had this kind of idea that maybe if we follow this one particular trail that kind of leads out into the middle of nowhere in the forest, we might just stumble upon it. I mean, after all, how hard could it be to spot this mysterious cabin in the woods that's been abandoned for years? I mean, after all, this is one of the most scariest places to ever be seen or ever be explored, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. We were walking for at least about 10 to 12 minutes, until we stumbled across something from a distance. Right through the thickness of the forest and through the pitch black darkness, we could see something, the silhouette of what looks like a giant cabin out in the middle of nowhere. It was pretty old looking, not to mention the spooky vibes just immediately kicked in once we actually got closer and closer. We stood there for a while and kind of glanced at it, and I gotta say, the vibe that this place gave off was almost as if there was something devilish inside waiting. What it was, I didn't know, neither did my little brother Tyler. But we weren't about to chicken out since we came this far and actually stumbled across this place completely by happy accident. We both glanced at each other and actually said, well, this is it. It's now or never. We came this far and we're going in this place together to see if we can actually stumble across anything. Our uncle probably would get mad, but just think about the excitement he would get knowing that we actually came across this place and survived to tell the tale, and to actually tell him everything that we found inside this place, and to prove once and for all if it was actually haunted and actually did possess these creepy dolls that were mentioned so many numerous times. So then, me and my little brother Tyler decided to enter very slowly, peer into the darkness. Opening up the door and just remembering seeing that this place was very worn down and just looked like it belonged in the early 1800s or something. But this place looked very historical, and already I was getting some vibes that there is something here. It's just a matter of where and what was inside. This probably wasn't the best, smartest idea, but me and Tyler decided to split up and go our separate ways. He would go exploring mainly around the living room and the kitchen, and I would just explore maybe the backyard or probably somewhere that probably would have a basement or something. I had just went around to the backyard and I noticed that there was doors leading into what could be a basement. It was sealed off pretty good, boarded up completely, so whoever put those boards there, they really didn't want nobody getting in or coming out. So I took it upon myself to go into the back door, and I tried to locate where this basement door could possibly be on the inside of the house. And I found it all right. It was boarded up as well, but not as badly as the one outside. So I decided to tear down all the boards and then pop open the door which led to the pitch dark basement. Boy oh boy, did I not want to go down there. There was definitely something evil just lurking down there because I could feel the energy coming off from all the pitch darkness. But regardless, I made my way downstairs in hopes into finding something mysterious, but hoping I could come out alive at the same time. Upon entering the very bottom, it just looked like an abandoned parking lot or some kind of abandoned construction site. I couldn't really wrap my mind around how this was even possible to structure, but regardless, it made it a lot more spooky and a lot more interesting to explore. So I decided to continue down this narrow hallway that was just creepy looking. Everywhere I looked, there was empty rooms, old rusted walls, and just a very, very creepy old place in general. I was on the hunt. I needed to find this supposed room filled with dolls. So far we haven't even spotted anything, so I decided to venture off deeper into this place to see what I can find. As I was still walking down this hallway, I stopped in my tracks because I could have sworn that I heard the sound of a little girl's voice from a distance. My heart was pounding at this point because I had way too many ghost encounters up until this point, and I really wasn't all that excited to actually have one now. But hey, this is what I lived for, so I was now on a search to follow this ghost voice. Maybe it could possibly lead me to this whole room of dolls, just like in Legend. And as I ventured off, deeper and deeper into this basement, I started to hear more ghost voices all over the place. I've never been so scared in my life. But I had to find this place, because I didn't come down here for nothing. And I sure as hell didn't come down here to be chicken neither. So, after about a good couple of minutes of walking through complete darkness, I opened up this one particular room that led me to the gold mine. The room of dolls. Everywhere I looked, there was dolls on shelves, on the floor, sitting in random spots. There must have been hundreds and hundreds of different dolls, vintage ones, cracked ones, spooky ones that even looked as if they were almost lifelike. And you know that feeling that when you go into a place that has dolls and they kind of have that thing where it looks like they're following your every movement in every direction that you walk? I had all eyes on me. And I had to tell my brother that I finally found it, the room of dolls. So I tried texting him saying, "Come down to the basement. I actually found the room of dolls." But before I can finish my text, the door behind me slammed. I jolted in panic, and I was trying to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Now I started to hear the laughter of these dolls come to life, and they were surrounding me, almost as if they were going to trap me. I was banging on the door, pleading and pleading for my brother to hear me so he can open up this door so we can both leave, because I did not know what these dolls were intending to do to me. I didn't even think these dolls could be alive. Boy, was I wrong. Now I'm on a fight to actually try to get out of this place alive. I looked behind me and then I can see one particular doll just slowly walking towards me with his arms out. It was intending to do something to me. I was too scared to do anything except just panic and freak out. Now my life is flashing before my eyes, almost like a near-death experience. And before the doll was like literally a few feet away from me, the door burst open and it was my brother who actually pulled me out, and he slammed the door behind, and we both jolted out of there and ran up the stairs, going completely out of the cabin, running all the way through the woods, making it all the way back to our uncle's house. When we got there, we were sweating profusely and tired, completely out of breath. He was worried about us and told us to tell him what happened, and we told him the whole entire story from start to finish. We went into the forest, we stumbled across the cabin of dolls, and we told him about what we experienced in there. He was pretty upset that we actually snuck out without his permission, but at the same time he was just relieved to know that we were both okay, and to know that none of us were actually seriously hurt in any way. All he said was basically just to never do that again, and jokingly just said, "Next time, take me along with you guys." To simply which we just both laughed and smiled at him, relieved that we made it home alive and that nothing happened to us. We went back up to our room and just discussed what we actually did see, but I was curious as what my brother had probably found. So I asked him, "Was there anything in particular that you found in the house?" To what he said was actually a little bit shocking, because he said when he went up to the attic, he also spotted a room with dolls. But for some reason, these kind of dolls were actually in some kind of satanic pose, literally surrounding an entire pentagram that looked to be made out of human's blood, along with a whole bunch of candles everywhere. Literally something out of a satanic horror movie. And upon that, he actually told me that he just received my text message when he actually looked up at the dolls just to find out they were all staring at him. After that, he just basically took off running downstairs, basically trying to find where I was so that way we can both get out of here, because he was more freaked out about what he saw. So, we both had a really traumatic experience, and my brother was like basically the lucky one, because he actually got a chance to escape before he actually got trapped. I, on the other hand, have to live with this insane memory of watching a whole bunch of dolls look at me, and have this one in particular doll just try to lunge at me right before my brother pulled me out in safety. Never again would we ever go back to this place. Hopefully someday this place just rots to the ground, that way it can never bother anybody else again. Once we got back to New York, we told all our friends what had happened. Of course, none of them believed us, but hey, we saw what we saw, and that's the end of it. We're still the spooky trio to this day. We're just more cautious about where we explore, and we try to look into more detail to what the urban legends have to say before we attempt to do anything. So, just a little advice. If you also like exploring haunted places like us, I recommend that you do your research on whatever it is you're going to explore, because some urban legends just might actually be true.